Millionaire CEO chose this popcorn girl from 83 finalists. Her shocking reaction will haunt you. The crowd buzzed with anticipation, eyes glued to the glimmering stage where bright lights danced like fireflies. In the center stood Millie, a simple popcorn girl with dreams bigger than her little cart. She'd beaten out 82 glamorous competitors, each more dazzling than the last, to stand before the notorious billionaire, Tyler Cain, the very man known for changing lives with a flick of a pen. Millie's heart raced as she gripped the metal handle of her cart, its usual buttery aroma now mixing with the sharp tang of nerves. Hadn't they told her? This wasn't just a talent show, it was a billion-dollar ticket to the unknown, a lottery of fate. The first strange element that hit her was the sheer oddity of winning. She was from a small town where movie nights meant popcorn popped in microwaves, not masterfully crafted in charming carts. As she looked at the grand chandeliers overhead, a sense of disbelief wrapped around her like a thick fog. She shouldn't be here. Every glance at the polished leather shoes and designer dresses reminded her of the world she didn't belong to. And yet, here she was. The cheers of the audience felt miles away, like whispers from another lifetime. And there he was, Tyler Cain, with his jet black hair and piercing blue eyes, scanning the crowd. But what if he was looking for something else, someone else? Millie felt trapped in an invisible cage of expectations. The room fell eerily silent as he made his way to her, all that mattered in the world pinned on this moment. A shiver slithered down her spine. What was she supposed to say? What if he saw right through her? Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. His voice cut through her thoughts, rich and smooth, commanding authority. He leaned closer, eyes narrowing slightly. You surprised everyone, Millie. The words hung in the air, heavy with promise. A lump lodged in her throat. Did he see her? The real her? But then unexpected he reached for her, fingers brushing lightly against hers. Millie froze, her world tipped on its axis. A cacophony of gasps erupted around them, like a quick rush of wind scattering leaves. What did this mean? All she could think about was how she had momentarily captivated a man who seemed untouchable, and yet she felt the crawling sensation of dread. What if he wasn't who he appeared to be? The whispers of the audience grew louder, the ominous rhythm of secrets slowly revealed, and just like that, her shining moment had a shadow lurking behind it. Millie's heartbeat thundered in her ears. Had she made a choice that would haunt her forever? With one final look into his intimidating gaze, Millie felt a tingling unease unfurl within her, and she had to know what was the price of this sudden fame. Millie's mind raced as Tyler Cain's hand lingered on hers. The touch was electric, but it sent shivers of uncertainty through her. This moment felt surreal, like she was caught between two worlds, one filled with solid reality and the other shrouded in glitzy dreams. Everyone was watching them, the entire auditorium holding its breath. Are you ready? Tyler asked, his voice low. The heaviness in his gaze pierced through her veneer of confidence. Ready for what? This was a dream that twisted and turned with dark undertones she couldn't yet comprehend. Before she could respond, a loud cheer erupted, shattering the tension. The crowd was both captivated and bewildered, their collective excitement crackling in the air. Millie's heart raced even faster. She felt their eyes digging into her, judging her worthiness to be here. This was a moment crafted for a star, not a popcorn girl. Yet here was Tyler, the billionaire whose mere smiles could change lives, standing before her, waiting. Let's take a walk, he said, motioning to the side of the stage. Millie's stomach twisted with a mix of fear and exhilaration. Hadn't he just won her heart with that simple gesture? But could she trust him? The looming shadow of doubt lurked in the edges of her mind. As they walked, the spotlights faded, and the dusk of backstage enveloped them. Millie felt the hard edges of reality press against her. It smelled of fresh paint and old wood, remnants of dreams past. Tyler led her away from prying eyes and into a dimly lit corridor. "What do you really want, Millie?" he asked, his voice lower now, more private. For a fleeting moment, she caught a glimpse of something unexpected in his expression of vulnerability. She hesitated. The truth spun in her chest, but would she dare to say it? She began, words barely forming. "I just want to help my family. Her voice broke. "I want to belong." The honesty hung raw in the air between them. Tyler's expression softened, then hardened. "You do understand, don't you? There's a cost to this world. It's like a high-stakes game where every move matters. And I need you to be ready for that. Your life will never be the same." Millie gulped, her throat dry. She hadn't thought about the consequences. She was here for fame and dreams, not for the gritty reality layered beneath the surface. Fear gripped her. What kind of cost was he talking about? Suddenly, the sound of a microphone squeaked over the intercom, pulling them back to the moment. "Millie, back on stage." The announcement echoed, a tether snapping her back into the spotlight she had just stepped away from. Tyler's fingers brushed against her hand again, but this time, the touch felt heavy with expectation. His blue eyes locked onto hers, the intensity swirling into something challenging. "Once you step back out there, take a good look around. It might be your last chance to see the world as it is now." Her heart pounded. Who was this man, really? What shadows were lurking behind his charismatic exuberance? Was he her ticket out or a storm waiting to unfold? Millie felt the fear crawl back into her throat as she turned toward the stage, her heart hanging on the edge of a knife. What was waiting for her out in that blinding glare? The answer was wrapped in uncertainty, but one thing was clear: the game had only just begun. As she stepped forward, a chilling realization pierced her thoughts. What if she never got the chance to turn back? Millie stepped back onto the stage, the brightness of the lights hitting her like a wave, drowning out the shadows of her doubts. The crowd roared again, a chaotic symphony of cheers and applause that sent an electric thrill through her. But the noise felt distant now, muted by the pounding of her heart. She searched for Tyler among the faces, hoping to find strength in his gaze, but he remained just out of reach, practically hidden behind the curtain she had just passed through. "Here she is, the one and only Millie," the host exclaimed, introducing her with enthusiasm. The spotlight zeroed in on her, and the audience clapped as if they had all been waiting for her moment. It felt monumental, yet suffocating. She took a deep breath, trying to steady herself, but each beat echoed with the weight of Tyler's words. She caught a glimpse of the judges' table. Each person there held a stare heavy with expectation. Did they see her as she truly was, or merely as a character in their show? Millie's mind raced with visions of what they'd amount to: the glitz of fame, the fear of failure. Was she strong enough? "Millie, can you tell us what is going through your mind right now?" A voice rang out, breaking her thoughts. It was Jenna, the show's notorious judge, known for her sharp tongue and sharp eyes, always calculating the odds. Well, Millie began, hesitating. She felt the urge to be honest, to spill the truth of her desires, her fears, everything bolting within her. I want people to believe in me." The crowd murmured, a mix of sympathy and skepticism rolled into one. A low whistle emanated from the back, perhaps a friend or an antagonist. This was it. The make or break moment. The way she answered could either lock her into a deal of dreams or plunge her into obscurity. Jenna leaned forward, locking on to Millie with her intense gaze. "But what do you truly want beyond this stage? What would you sacrifice to achieve your dreams?" The question hit like a punch. Every amateur dreamer fantasizes about fame and fortune, but nobody talks about the cost, the real cost. Millie could feel the sweat on her palms, panic rushing through her. She glanced back towards the shadows of the corridor, seeking Tyler's reassurance. But instead, there was only the fear of being alone on the brink of something massive and unknown. I don't know, she stammered, then forced out, I just want to be part of something bigger than myself. What if the price is too steep? Jenna probed, her voice booming like thunder in the suddenly silent auditorium. Are you ready to walk into a world that might break you? Silence. A palpable tension settled over the audience as she grappled with the weight of those words. Everyone was wondering, was she? Millie took a step back, overwhelmed. The lights dimmed. Voices whispered. The crowd seemed eager for the show, but she felt as if the walls were closing in. She longed to run, to escape the stairs, to go back to being the popcorn girl, to revert back to safety, where the stakes weren't so high. Millie. The firm voice of Tyler rang out from behind the scenes. She turned, her heart racing. There he was, eyes fierce, an ocean of emotions churning within. He stepped into the light, cutting through the murmur of the audience. I believe in you. Show them the real you, he called out, his voice grounding her. In that moment, everything shifted. It was no longer just about winning or losing, it was about authenticity and the struggle for acceptance. Millie's chest tightened, and she lifted her chin, a decision crystallizing in her mind. This was her shot. This might change everything. The crowd held its breath as she prepared to speak again, ready to reclaim her voice, but just then, the arena darkened, plunging into momentary silence followed by a high-pitched screeching noise, the unmistakable sound of chaos breaking. A heavy thud near the stage interrupted the tension, nearly knocking her off balance. What was happening? Was this part of the show, or had her world just taken a turn towards the unthinkable? As gasps filled the air, a creeping dread settled over Millie. What had she stepped into? It was only just beginning to unravel. What secrets lay in the depths of the glitzy world she was trying to enter? With an unbelievable twist, the stage was about to expose a side she was not ready to face. The spotlight flickered, casting eerie shadows across the stage. Millie squinted against the sudden darkness, her heartbeat echoing in her ears, drowning out the rising panic. What was that thud? Why was everything unraveling so quickly? Millie? Tyler's voice sliced through the murmur of confusion, sharper than a knife. He moved closer, urgency etched across his face. Stay where you are. The air felt charged, electric. The audience was restless, eyes wide, murmurs escalating to frantic whispers. Millie could feel the tension knotting her stomach. This was not how it was supposed to go. She was meant to shine, to be seen, not to stand frozen in fear. Then, as if on cue, a spotlight swung back to the judges, revealing Jenna's tense expression, her cocked head like a hawk sizing up its prey. What is happening? She demanded, her voice drilled into the chaos. Someone's hurt. Came a panicked shout from the crowd. A collective gasp rippled through the audience as they shifted uneasily, suddenly united in concern. A figure stumbled into the light, clinging to the edge of the stage. Blood trickled down their arm, pooling on the solid floor, an alarming shock against the polished surface. It was one of the contestants, someone Millie had briefly exchanged pleasantries with, now gasping for breath as they collapsed. Millie's heart leaped into her throat. Oh my God! She cried, instinctively stepping forward, drawn to the chaos. But Tyler forced her back, his grip firm. No, Millie. It's dangerous. An electric silence blanketed the area, fraught with horror. Judges hastily retreated, and cries for help erupted. Millie's heart raced, trapped between her instincts to help and the pressure of the audience's eyes trained on her, judging, waiting. She felt raw and exposed, every heartbeat thrumming through her veins, agony in her throat. The medical team rushed in, and Millie's mind was ablaze with thoughts. Who would do something like this? It had to be an accident, but was it? Panic swelled in the crowd, each gasp a testimony of fear. She fought back against the rising tide of dread, clutching Tyler's hand tightly as if anchoring herself. What if someone sabotaged the show? Millie whispered, the words tumbling out before she could catch them. Tyler's brow furrowed, worry flashing in his eyes. That's a possibility. Millie. Jenna's voice snapped, clearing the tangled web of her thoughts. We need you to stay put. If someone is targeting us, we cannot risk anyone getting hurt. Millie swallowed hard, struggling against the sick feeling pooling in her chest. How had she let her dreams pull her into such a twisted reality? The allure of fame was fading, and all she saw now was the monstrous shadow it cast. Suddenly a low voice rumbled through the crowd. Ladies and gentlemen, please remain calm. We will address the situation shortly. Do not panic. The authority of the tone, an emergency announcement, suddenly filled her with a strange sense of safety. Was someone finally taking control? But then, a feeling unlike anything Millie had known pressed into her mind. What if this chaos was just the beginning? Who stood to gain from this madness? As medics worked diligently to care for the fallen contestant, the chatter morphed into shriller accusations, fingers pointed, as if desperately seeking a culprit amongst themselves. Millie's gaze darted across the stage, alighting on the judges who looked as strained as she felt. She needed clarity. She needed to find out who was really behind this, if there truly was a hidden agenda at play. Millie, Tyler murmured, drawing her focus back. You still want to go through with this, don't you? Was it worth it? The bright lights, the applause, the fame, or this unfolding nightmare? She glanced back at the judges, her ambition battling against the fear that gripped her soul, her voice steadied, uncertainty metamorphosing into resolve. I have to know what is happening. I can't back down now. As she dared to step forward again, the black velvet curtain swayed ominously behind her, and she felt the weight of unseen eyes upon her. What awaited her on the other side? The light shimmer of hope flickered again in her chest, but with it came a deeper, more sinister question. Was this the moment she would either rise or dissolve into darkness? What lay ahead promised to be far more dangerous than she ever imagined. Would the truth reveal itself amidst the chaos, or would it consume her whole? As Millie stepped onto the stage, the spotlight felt like a weight pressing down on her shoulders. The collective breath of the audience hung in the air like a charged storm, and every eye was glued to her, anticipating what she would do next. Blood still pooled on the floor, a stark reminder of the unfolding horror, and Millie could almost hear the frantic heartbeat of the crowd echoing in her own chest. Stay strong, she whispered to herself, forcing her trembling hands to steady. But fear gnawed at her, relentless and insistent. Was this truly the end of her dreams? Or was it just a dark prelude to a journey she had yet to fully understand? Clarification was consuming her mind as fragments of loud whispers flitted around her. Who could have done this? Was it a deliberate act? Each question curled like smoke, filling the auditorium with paranoia. Jenna took a step forward, urgency on her face. We need to get a handle on things, she said, her voice steady despite the fraught atmosphere. Follow me, Millie. We need to regroup. With Tyler's reassuring grip on her elbow, Millie realized the only way out of this turmoil was to uncover the truth. Together they followed Jenna backstage. A place once filled with glitter and excitement now felt like a sordid den brimming with tension. Is anyone accounted for? Jenna's tone shifted to authoritative as she scanned the small group congregating near the dressing rooms. Planting her hands on her hips, she demanded, "Speak up. We can't let this get any worse." A man with dark circles under his eyes stepped forward, clutching a clipboard. "Everyone's here except for Chris and Lily. They're missing," he said, his voice shaking slightly, betraying the panic just beneath the surface. The air went thick with unease. Millie exchanged a glance with Tyler, his eyes narrowed, worry etching deeper lines into his handsome face. "If they're missing," he began, his voice trailing off as a pall of dread settled over them. "We're not safe." Panic surged through Millie again, her mind racing. There had to be a reason for this chaos. Was it just a coincidence, or was it orchestrated? Suddenly, a piercing scream echoed from the opposite side of the stage area. The scream clawed at Millie's insides, and she turned sharply to face the sound. Tyler's grip tightened. "Millie, wait." But her legs moved of their own accord, propelled by a mix of horror and determination. The scream had come from the prop room, a place filled with shadows and secrets. As Millie reached the door, she hesitated. What if it was another victim? What if they were in danger? Her heart drummed a chaotic rhythm as she pushed the door wide open, the smell of damp and decay filling her lungs. The flickering fluorescent lights painted the walls like an unsettling masterpiece. The eerie shadows danced, almost taunting her. "Hello?" Millie called out cautiously, her voice cutting through the tense silence. No response came, only the heavy breath of anticipation, mingling with the fear that choked her. The room's silence was deafening, and the adrenaline coursing through her veins begged her to move faster. Then she heard it again, a soft sobbing. Her heart raced, pounding against her ribcage as she stepped further inside. With every inch, the reality of what she might find struck harder. Shadows morphed into grotesque shapes against the wall, and her mind conjured worst-case scenarios. "Who is there?" The trembling voice was desperate, but it belonged to someone she recognized. "Lily?" Millie exclaimed, fear twisting her gut. "Millie! Help!" came the choked reply, and Millie's blood turned to ice as she rushed towards the source of the sound, poised to confront whatever horror awaited her. But as she reached the corner of the room, a figure emerged from the shadows, sinister and vague. The person blocked Lily from sight, a knife glinting in their hand, and Millie felt time freeze around her. "Stay back!" The figure growled, malicious intent radiating off them, further twisting the atmosphere like a knife in the gut. Millie stood helpless, her heart racing as her mind screamed to act but her body refused to move. The truth was growing darker, twisting into a nightmare she was unprepared for. What had she stepped into? And in the back of her mind, one question loomed larger than the rest: who were they really up against? With a final, desperate pulse of doubt rippling through her, Millie's thoughts echoed ominously, signaling that horror was not just lurking in the shadows, it had stepped into the light. The figure loomed larger as the flickering lights revealed more details. A mask obscured its features, adding to the terror swirling in Millie's mind. She felt cornered, trapped in a nightmare where every instinct screamed for her to flee. But Lily, her friend, her anchor, was right there, vulnerable, terror etched across her face. "Let her go." Millie's voice emerged, shaky yet defiant. She had to protect her friend, it was a reflex born from deep loyalty. But the masked figure tilted its head slightly, amusement twisting its lips. "You think you're in control here?" The voice felt foreign, cold, with an unnerving lilt that sent chills down Millie's spine. "You're just another pawn in this game." Every second spent in that room spiraled into an eternity. Millie's mind raced, searching for a way out. She could dart back, seek help, but what if the figure followed? What if it got to Lily before anyone arrived? The breaths she took were sharp, stinging her lungs, and she felt the world narrowing around her as primal fear clawed at her gut. "Let her go!" Tyler shouted, bursting through the doorway behind Millie, his hands raised like a shield. But the figure's focus locked onto him, and Millie's heart tumbled into her stomach. "Stay back, or I'll make her scream." A sick eagerness laced the threat, and in an instant, Millie recognized the certainty in the figure's eyes. This wasn't just about intimidation, it was meant to inflict pain. "Please, don't," Millie pleaded, stepping forward despite her fear. The urge to disconnect from this nightmare pushed her legs into action. "I'll do whatever you want. Just let her go." For a brief moment, the figure hesitated, weaving a web of silence that felt like a fragile thread between desperation and violence. Time hung suspended as Millie's words echoed in her own ears. Did she truly mean it? Would she trade herself for Lily's safety? But the pause shattered when the room erupted in chaos. A sharp bang echoed from the doorway, the sound of a door slamming against the wall as Jenna burst into the room, breathless and wild-eyed, followed closely by the others from backstage. "Step back!" she yelled, brandishing a fire extinguisher like a weapon, her face flushed with adrenaline. In that instant, the figure's composure fractured, glancing towards the commotion. It was an opening, fragile yet promising. "Run!" Millie screamed at Lily, who looked lost in the horror but responded instinctively, scrambling backward. Millie's heart raced with a clawing hope they could escape. But as Tyler lunged toward the figure, trying to distract it, something in the air shifted, the figure spun back, its movements deft as it lunged forward to intercept Tyler. Millie watched, paralyzed, as the knife flashed in the dim light, fear coursing through her body like ice water. The room filled with the sounds of struggle, grunts, and the sickening clatter of metal against metal. "Help him!" Millie shouted, although she felt her own limbs frozen in terror. But as the chaos unfolded, the world went dark. The lights went out entirely, plunging them all into a disorienting blackness that seemed to consume every corner of the room. Screams echoed, muted and distorted, and Millie could only hear her own breathing, the sharp, frantic gasps mingling with the pounding of her heart. Darkness thickened, and then, an unexpected noise sliced through the chaos, a clear snap, different from the rest, a deliberate sound. Millie's instincts kicked in, forcing her to take a step forward through the encroaching void. "Lily!" she cried, the name spilling from her lips like a prayer. But instead of a response, the darkness let out a low laugh, chilling in its familiarity. It echoed with twisted delight, a silver lining to all the dread. Millie's blood ran cold. "Do you want to play a game?" The sinister voice taunted, and with each word, the weight of inevitability pressed down on Millie. She stood at the edge of a choice, one that could either lead to deliverance or disaster. What awaited her in this nightmarish game? And as silence fell, all she could think was, how far was she willing to go to save her friend? The laughter echoed off the walls, a spine-chilling sound that made Millie's skin prickle. She felt the weight of fear settle in her stomach, churning like a storm. Someone had to act, but the darkness was all-consuming, smothering her thoughts. "Lily!" she shouted again, squeezing her eyes shut, trying to visualize her friend's face through the oppressive shadows. The laughter faded, replaced by a hiss of breath, a sign that the masked figure had not let go of its victim. "Choose wisely, Millie," the figure said, its voice slithering through the air. "Shall we play for her life? Or will you leave it to chance?" Each word hung thick with malice, and Millie's heart raced as she felt an overwhelming sense of urgency. The room whispered around her, unseen movements lurking within the blackness. She couldn't let fear paralyze her any longer. "I'm not afraid of your games," she yelled, summoning the courage buried beneath layers of panic. "What do you want?" "Want? Oh, dear girl, it's not what I want. It's what you need. The chance to save her or to lose everything." The voice danced around her, playing with her fears as if they were puppets. Millie's thoughts raced. What kind of game could hold Lily's life in the balance? She could feel the pulse of adrenaline hammering through her veins, prompting her mind to spin wildly. "What's the game?" she challenged, trying to keep her voice steady despite the trembling in her hands. "Simple enough. You have 1 minute to find her, or she belongs to the dark." Panic sliced through her. 1 minute? Where is she? Millie cried out into the void, hoping for some shred of direction. "Tick-tock, my dear. You need to think and listen." The voice was softer now, but it still held that sickening edge of glee. The room shifted slightly. Was it her imagination or the figure moving near Lily? Millie couldn't afford to waste time. She turned on her heels, straining to hear over her own frantic breathing. In the darkness, whispers filled her ears, chaotic and indistinct, the unspoken fears of her friends playing out like a nightmare in the background. She reached through the shadows, fingers brushing against the cool, damp walls, desperate for any point of reference. A flash of movement caught her eye, and she spun towards it. "Lily!" she called again, but only silence answered. Her heart raced faster, each beat punctuated with the thought of losing her friend. She couldn't let that happen. Stepping off instinct, she followed the faint sounds. A whimper. That dragged her closer. "Help me!" The plea sent a jolt of adrenaline through her, icy and electrifying. It was unmistakably Lily's voice, yet it seemed to come from everywhere at once, making Millie dizzy. "Where are you?" she shouted, voice cracking, the urgency clawing at her throat. Another echo of laughter reverberated around her, and she felt the air change, thickening with tension. The dark was alive, holding secrets that twisted and curled around her, and with each fleeting moment, Lily's chance at safety slipped further away. Then, without warning, the room flickered back to life, a flash of light illuminating the chaos. Millie saw them, a twisted figure standing tall, knife glinting, and on the floor, Lily, her eyes wide with terror, trussed up like a hostage in this dreadful game. "Your time is up," the figure shouted, reveling in the thrill of the moment, but just as dread surged through Millie, something deep inside ignited a spark of defiance. With a sudden roar of courage, she lunged toward the figure, feeling a rush separate from fear. This was no longer just a game. What would happen next? Could she really fight back against the darkness? As the confrontation loomed, the stakes climbed higher than ever, and Millie's determination would either seal their fate or lead them into a trap. Would her next move bring salvation or doom? Millie felt the tension crackle in the air as she lunged forward, adrenaline surging through her veins like wildfire. The figure loomed larger, the knife glinting under the flickering light. With every step she took toward it, a sense of power surged within her, pushing back against the oppressive darkness that had weighed her down. "Let her go." Millie's voice echoed fiercely, breaking through the frightful silence. Her heart hammered against her ribcage, but she refused to waver. She had to save Lily. The masked figure shifted slightly, its cold eyes gleaming beneath the hood, narrowing with amusement. "Oh, dear girl. Brave, but misguided." A low chuckle spilled from its lips, twisting Millie's stomach into knots. "Lily!" Millie cried, desperately seeking her friend's gaze. But all she saw was fear that mirrored her own. She knew time was slipping away, each tick of her racing heart resonating against the thick walls. "Time's a fickle mistress, Millie," the figure quipped, glancing at an unseen clock, its voice dripping with mockery. "What will you sacrifice? Your life for her life? That's not the game." Millie shot back, not caring about the shivers crawling down her spine. "You want to hurt us? You want to play with our lives? You don't get to make the rules." A flash of rage ignited deeper in the figure's eyes. "The rules? My dear, the only rule is that I make all the choices. You're far too late to play my game." With a surge of courage, Millie moved closer, dodging the space between them. She could feel Lily's eyes on her, pleading for hope. Every instinct yelled at her to protect her friend, to take a stand against the darkness that wanted to claim her. In that moment, Millie spotted something shiny lying on the ground, a small piece of metal, perhaps a shard of a broken mirror. Without hesitation, she dove for it, snatching it up. It could be a weapon, a distraction, anything she could use against the figure that thrived in shadow. Seeing her action, the figure's laughter stopped abruptly, transforming into a dark scowl. "Desperation will only make your downfall more entertaining. Get ready!" Millie shouted, brandishing the makeshift weapon. "You can't take her from me." With every ounce of resolve, she flung the shard toward the masked figure, watching with a mix of hope and terror as it spun through the air. The figure caught it effortlessly, squeezing it tightly until blood dripped from its hand. "Foolish girl," it hissed, anger crackling in the air. Millie froze, heart racing. Had she just made things worse? The room darkened around her, the shadows stretching, curling into grotesque shapes, threatening to engulf her. Suddenly, Lily's voice pierced through. "Millie! Don't!" The figure twisted toward Lily, and the darkness surged forward, as if rearing back, ready to strike. Millie's mind raced. She had to think fast, but the fear clawed at her. With a desperate gasp, she lunged again, fueled by love, fear, and a raw will to survive. "You win." The words echoed in the chaos around her, a battle cry ignited with fierce determination, but as she crossed the threshold into the figure's reach, everything went black. A silence so deep it felt like suffocation enveloped her, stealing breath and hope alike. What had she done? As her body collided with the empty void, realization dawned: the darkness was not just outside, it was within. Would she find the strength to conquer the horror, or succumb to the nightmare lurking in her soul? A whisper of a truth hung in the air. What if the real battle was not against the figure, but against herself? In that chilling moment, she understood the stakes had changed. In a battle where every second counted, the question remained: would she find a way to reclaim the light before everything slipped beyond reach? Millie gasped, the air thick with an eerie silence that pressed down on her like a weight. She could feel the darkness wrapping around her, but in that void, something flickered: an ember of hope, a whisper of clarity. "Millie, focus." A distant voice broke through. It was Lily, a faint echo that reached her from some far-off corner of her mind. With a sharp intake of breath, Millie shook her head, her heart pounding again. The dark was suffocating, tempting her to surrender to despair, but Lily's pleading voice ignited a spark inside. "I want to let you go," she murmured, though she wasn't sure if anyone could hear her. Panic clawed at Millie as she went deeper into the blackness. Where was that figure? Was it still watching, waiting for the moment she broke? She couldn't let fear steal her resolve. She had to find Lily and herself before the shadows consumed everything. Suddenly, an image burst into her mind, the shard of glass, glimmering like a beacon. Millie focused on that image with all her might. The darkness had teeth and claws, and it yanked at her memories, threatening to unravel her thoughts. But she pushed through, summoning an inner strength she didn't know she had. With deliberate breath, she willed herself to move. Gradually, the inky void began to shift. Colors returned, albeit washed out and hazy. Millie could hear it, a soft whispering, laced with the sounds of her heartbeat. It was like she was rising from deep waters, fighting to reach the surface, and there. A flicker of light danced on the edge of her vision. Without thinking, Millie charged toward it, legs propelling her forward as if the very essence of hope buoyed her up. The shadows hissed, swirling around her, but she pressed on. "Lily!" Millie shouted, determination flooding her chest. "I'm coming." As she pushed through the last curtain of darkness, the space erupted into blinding light. Millie stumbled into a room that felt alive with energy, electricity crackling all around her. She blinked against the brightness, frantically searching for Lily. In the center of the room stood the figure, looming, menacing yet somehow less terrifying now that she was standing in the light. But it wasn't he alone. There, tied to a chair with fear etched onto her face, was Lily. Millie's heart shattered at the sight. "Lily!" she cried, but the figure turned back toward her, a wicked grin carving across its masked face. "Welcome back, Millie," it purred, voice dripping with malice. "Did you really think you could escape?" Dread swept over Millie like a cold wave. "Let her go," she demanded, clenching her fists, the glistening shard still clutched tight in her hand. The figure laughed, a chilling sound that echoed off the walls. "You think your bravery changes anything? Look at her." It gestured towards Lily, and Millie's blood ran cold as she watched Lily struggle against her bonds. Her friend was terrified, and Millie felt a surge of protective fury welling within her. "I will fight you," Millie declared, voice steady. "I'll end this." "They all say that," the figure taunted, fingers curling around the knife draped at its side. "But we'll see how brave you really are when faced with despair." Millie's resolve hardened. "This isn't just about bravery. It's about love, and I'll never let you take her from me." With one resolute step, she thrust the shard forward. The air seemed to thrum with energy as she prepared to fight. She could feel the energy building, darkness and light clashing violently in the bounds of this room. Then in a heartbeat's pulse, the world shifted, and shadows exploded in a chaotic frenzy. Millie's heart raced as she felt the shadows retreat and surround her instead. What was happening? Could she actually harness this power? As the darkness thickened again, suffocating in its reach, the figure launched towards her, blade poised for a strike. "This ends here, Millie." Desperation surged in Millie. She had to act now or lose everything. The wall of shadows loomed, and her breath caught in her throat. She had no choice but to confront it, to find the light within the dark, but would it be enough? As the blade flashed, and shadows swirled around her, she realized that the true battle was far from over. Would she finally uncover the strength buried within, or would the night claim them both? A chilling revelation echoed in her mind. This fight had only just begun. The clash of shadows enveloped them, a swirling tempest of fear and determination. Millie could feel it now. The darkness wasn't just outside her, it was inside her too, lurking in her doubts, her insecurities, but she wouldn't let it win. The air thickened, crackling with energy as she summoned every ounce of courage she had. "Lily!" she shouted, her voice breaking through the chaos. "I'm here. I will save you." The masked figure laughed, a sound that echoed with twisted delight, as it darted toward her, knife glinting dangerously, but something had shifted. Millie's heart raced, and she could almost hear whispers of hope beneath the noise. She stepped forward, defiance coursing through her veins. "I want to let you take her," Millie declared, her voice strong, raw, as she gripped the shard tighter, feeling its cold metal bite into her palm. In that moment, she realized she wasn't just fighting for Lily, she was fighting for herself. The little girl with a popcorn cart, with dreams too big for the small town, now standing on the brink of something monumental. Before she could lose her nerve, Millie lunged at the figure, aiming the shard right at its heart. The world slowed, time stretching thin as she felt the weight of everything, the pressure of loss, of pain, swirling with the promise of courage. She could see Lily's eyes, pleading, and that resonated deep within her, igniting a fire, but the figure's eyes darkened with malicious intent, and it swatted the shard aside. Millie stumbled but quickly regained her footing, fueled by adrenaline. She wasn't done yet. "Keep her name out of your mouth," Millie shouted, the words turning into a rallying cry. The figure, taken aback, shifted slightly, and that small shift gave Millie just the opening she needed. "This ends now." Drawing strength from within, she charged, propelled by the fierce loyalty to her friend and the fight for her own dreams. She found her footing, the darkness swirling, but she was no longer afraid. With a surge of confidence, she swung the shard again, this time aiming low. The blade met resistance, and the figure hissed in surprise. The shadows around began to flicker with uncertainty. It felt like the very foundation of the tortured atmosphere was starting to crack. "Millie!" Lily cried, her voice a surge of hope. "You can do it." With every ounce of strength, Millie tackled the figure, gripping the knife arm, wresting it from the figure's grasp. The world around began to brighten, shadows retreating as she fought back against the encroaching darkness. Breathless, she landed a fierce blow, pushing back the shadows, and something extraordinary happened. Light surged from within her, cutting through the veil of night. The figure stumbled, and in that moment, Millie saw its true form beneath the mask: fear, pain, loneliness. "I understand you," Millie said, her voice now steady. "You're not just a monster, you're someone who has lost. But I won't let you take anyone else. We will all find our light." The figure faltered, its posture weakened, shadows swirling like tendrils, ready to engulf. Millie felt a chance she could end this cycle of darkness. "Together!" she shouted, calling out to Lily and the others. The lights exploded in brilliance, sweeping through the darkness, illuminating the shadows until they faded, until all that remained was clarity and light. The figure shrieked, the sound filled with anguish, and in the blinding light, it dissolved, leaving nothing but silence and a breath of peace. "No more fear," Millie whispered, her heart hammering in her chest. She turned to Lily, freeing her with trembling hands, and watched as hope ignited in her friend's eyes. "Millie!" Lily gasped, wrapping her arms around her, tears streaming down her cheeks. They had faced the chaos together, defying the darkness, affirming life. As the others began to filter into the room from behind, Jenna leading the crew with smiles and relief etched across their faces, Millie felt a wave of gratitude wash over her. She had answered the call of courage, together, they had won, with the light around them, the blinding fear and dread of that night slowly diminished. It was a victory steeped in emotion, the rawness of the experience binding them together even tighter. Millie took a deep breath, feeling the weight of dreams stretching before her, brighter than ever. "Let us go home," she said softly, looking at her friends, their faces filled with relief and camaraderie. As they stepped out from the shadows, leaving behind the remnants of pain and embracing the dawn of new beginnings, Millie realized this: her journey had just started. With Tyler close behind, a glint of pride in his eyes, Millie felt the warmth of support surrounding her. No longer the popcorn girl, she was a warrior, a beacon of resilience and determination. "Millie," Tyler said, catching up. "You were incredible." "I couldn't have done it alone," Millie replied, smiling at him. "We all faced that darkness together. A new adventure awaited." They were ready, for the shadows may come again, but they now knew their strength, their light would always shine. Together. Exclusive stories await you, so you need to subscribe now to ensure you never miss a moment of the excitement. Smash that like button with all your might. Let us show the algorithm that we mean business. And flood the comments section with your reactions, theories, and emotions about this epic conclusion. Don't wait even one more second to share this unbelievable video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. It's time to spread the word. Your support means the world.